We live in a world where most of us are raised with the belief that being nice to everyone is the safest way to live. That if we keep everyone happy, life will somehow treat us kindly in return. And so, from a very young age, we start building a habit of pleasing people. We smile even when our heart is breaking. We agree when our mind is screaming no. And we sacrifice our needs just to make others comfortable. It feels harmless at first, but what we don't realize is that every time we betray ourselves for the sake of keeping someone else happy, we slowly lose a piece of who we are. It begins with small compromises, but over time it becomes a burden that suffocates us. The burden of pleasing people is heavier than any other weight we can carry because it is invisible. No one else can see it, yet it crushes us from the inside. You wake up and wonder, what will they think if I say this? You choose your words not out of honesty, but out of fear of disapproval. You attend gatherings you don't want to. You say yes to commitments that drain you. And you smile at faces that hurt you. All because you don't want to appear rude. All because you think being nice is equal to being loved. But here is the reality: the more you try to please everyone, the more they expect from you, and the more invisible you become in your own life. Money. It is heartbreaking when you realize that the world doesn't remember you for how nice you were. People are quick to forget the countless times you went out of your way to make them feel valued. What they do remember is the one time you couldn't fulfill their expectations, the one time you said no. Suddenly, all your years of niceness vanish, and you are labeled selfish or unkind. And in that painful moment, you begin to see the truth: that people are never fully satisfied, no matter how much you give. The problem isn't with them. The problem begins when you try to build your identity on their approval. Trying to be nice to everyone robs you of authenticity. You start performing roles instead of living a life. You become the yes person in every group, the one who bends and bends until you are left broken. You silence your own opinions because you are scared of hurting someone else. But what about the hurt you cause yourself when you suppress your voice? What about the dreams you abandon because you are too busy carrying the weight of everyone else's demands? That is the tragedy of being too nice. You lose yourself long before anyone else loses you. And it doesn't end there. People pleasing creates a cycle of resentment. You keep giving, but deep inside you feel unseen and unappreciated. You keep saying yes, but inside your heart is shouting for rest. This quiet resentment builds walls inside you, walls that block joy, peace, and even genuine kindness. Because when your kindness is forced, when it is born out of fear instead of choice, it stops being kindness at all. It turns into exhaustion disguised as generosity. The truth is, no matter how nice you are, there will always be someone who criticizes you, someone who misunderstands you, someone who chooses not to see your heart. So why carry the impossible burden of trying to win everyone over? Why waste your precious energy proving yourself to people who may never even notice? Isn't it better to be disliked for being real than to be loved for being someone you are not? When you let go of the need to please everyone, you begin to breathe freely. You begin to recognize that your worth is not measured by how many people you keep happy, but by how honestly you live your life. You don't owe anyone endless niceness at the cost of your own peace. What you owe is truth to yourself, truth to your values, your dreams, your dignity. And when you live by that truth, you may not please everyone, but you will respect yourself. And that respect is worth far more than the shallow approval of the world. We often confuse kindness with allowing people to do whatever they want with us, but the reality is very different. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. They are about teaching them how to respect you. When you keep saying yes to things you don't want to do, when you keep letting others cross lines that make you uncomfortable, you are not being kind. You are simply neglecting yourself. And the truth is, no one will respect you until you show them how to. People learn from the way you treat yourself. If you constantly put yourself last, they will assume you don't matter, and they will treat you the same way. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors. They don't lock people out. They simply guide them on how to enter your life with dignity. Without boundaries, relationships turn into traps where one person keeps taking and the other keeps giving until there is nothing left. Think about how many times you have allowed someone to take your time when you were already exhausted. How many times you listened to complaints when your own heart was heavy. How many times you smiled politely while someone disrespected you, all because you didn't want to appear rude. But every time you ignore your own feelings for the sake of being nice, you are teaching others that it's acceptable to dismiss your worth. It is often said that love without respect is empty. And the same goes for kindness without boundaries. People may like you for always being available, for always adjusting, for always staying silent, but do they truly respect you? Respect grows when you are courageous enough to say, "This is where I draw the line." And it doesn't mean you are unkind. It simply means you value yourself enough to protect your peace. Because the reality is, when you lose respect for yourself, even your kindness becomes meaningless. Boundaries are also an act of honesty. When you set limits, you are being truthful about who you are and what matters to you. Pretending to be okay with everything just to keep the peace is not honesty. It is avoidance. And peace built on avoidance never lasts. At some point, the resentment builds, and the same people you were trying to keep happy will become the very people you feel suffocated around. That is why boundaries are not selfish. They are a form of self-respect, and they are a gift to the other person as well. Because only when you show up as your authentic self can you truly offer love, kindness, and connection. We need to understand that saying no doesn't mean closing the door on people. It means keeping the relationship healthy. When you let others know what hurts you, what drains you, or what you cannot accept, you give them a chance to grow as well. And if they truly care for you, they will adjust, they will respect, they will stay. The ones who leave were never meant to stay. And that is something we should accept with grace. Boundaries don't push away the right people. They only filter out the wrong ones. So, the next time you feel guilty for saying no, remind yourself that guilt is not a sign of wrongdoing. It is often just a sign that you are breaking an old habit of self-neglect. And every time you choose to honor your own needs, you are teaching the world that your kindness is rooted in strength, not in weakness. That is when people stop taking you for granted and start valuing you for who you truly are. When you live with boundaries, you don't stop being kind. You stop being a doormat. You don't stop caring. You stop carrying what isn't yours. You don't stop loving. You start loving yourself too. And in that balance, you find a life where kindness shines brighter because it is no longer diluted by fear. It is pure, it is strong, and it is respected. There is a hard truth we must accept. Not everyone deserves our energy. We are not here to pour ourselves endlessly into people who neither value nor respect what we bring into their lives. Yet so often, we act as if our kindness and time are limitless resources. We give and give until we are empty, until we are running on fumes, just to keep relationships alive that were never meant to last. But the reality is, when you scatter your energy everywhere, you dilute your own power. You end up drained, frustrated, and wondering why no one seems to give back the way you do. Life becomes heavier when you invest in people who only take without ever intending to give. Think about the times you sat with someone who constantly complained, but never listened when you needed to talk. Think about the times you went out of your way to help someone who vanished the moment you needed support. Think about the countless nights you stayed awake worrying about someone who never even thought to check if you were okay. Every one of those moments is proof that not everyone is worthy of the precious energy you carry within you. Your time is your life. Every hour you spend on someone is a part of your life you will never get back. And your kindness is not an unlimited supply. It is sacred. When you give it away to people who misuse it, you are not only wasting your energy, you are robbing those who actually need it. Because while you are busy watering the deserts of ungrateful hearts, you are neglecting the gardens that could bloom beautifully if only you gave them the same care. This doesn't mean we become cold or selfish. It means we become intentional. We begin to recognize that our energy is like light. It should shine where it is welcomed, not where it is constantly dimmed. Some people come into our lives only to drain us, to feed off our kindness, without ever offering gratitude or love in return. And as long as you keep letting them, they will keep taking. It is not their responsibility to stop. It is yours to decide where your energy flows. The truth is, the people who truly value you will never demand that you exhaust yourself to prove your care. They will never take advantage of your kindness. They will appreciate the little things. They will respect your boundaries. And they will give as much as they take. These are the people who deserve your time, your heart, and your energy. But the ones who always leave you feeling small, drained, or unworthy, they do not deserve the pieces of you that you keep sacrificing. There is a beautiful strength in learning to step back, in walking away from places where your presence isn't valued, in saying, I cannot keep giving to people who do not see me. That is not bitterness, that is wisdom. Because when you save your energy for the right people, you begin to feel alive again. You begin to feel that your kindness matters, that your time is meaningful, that your love is not wasted. So stop giving endlessly to everyone who asks for a piece of you. Stop believing that being available to all makes you a better person. It doesn't. It only makes you tired and resentful. Start choosing where your heart invests. Start choosing who gets access to your energy. And remember, protecting your energy is not cruelty. It is self-respect. And when you respect yourself enough to be selective, you attract people who will respect you too. Because at the end of the day, not everyone deserves your energy. But the ones who do, they will never let you forget how much it means to them. There is a subtle but powerful difference between being nice and being kind. And once we understand it, our entire perspective on life begins to shift. Niceness often comes from a place of fear, from the desire to be accepted, to be liked, to avoid conflict at any cost. Kindness, on the other hand, comes from strength. It is rooted in compassion, in honesty, and in the courage to do what is right even if it is uncomfortable. When we spend our lives trying to be nice, we hide our true selves behind a mask of constant agreement. But when we choose kindness, we stand firm in our truth, even when it means someone may not like us for it. Being nice can make you agreeable, but it also makes you vulnerable to exploitation. Niceness whispers, say yes so they won't be upset, while kindness says, do what's right, even if it disappoints someone. Niceness is about image, how people perceive you. Kindness is about intention, why you do what you do. You can be nice and still be insincere, but you cannot be truly kind without being genuine. And isn't that what life should be about? Living authentically, instead of performing endlessly for the approval of others. Think about the times you agreed to something just to avoid conflict, even though you didn't want to. That is niceness. Think about the times you stayed silent while someone crossed your limits because you were afraid of seeming rude. That is niceness. But think about the moments you spoke the truth with love, even though it was hard. Think about the times you stood up for yourself or someone else because it was the right thing to do. That is kindness. One drains you, the other empowers you. The problem with chasing niceness is that it never ends. You can spend your whole life smiling, nodding, and bending just to keep everyone happy, yet someone will always find fault. Niceness creates a cycle where you are constantly performing, but never at peace. Kindness breaks that cycle because it doesn't depend on approval. It depends on integrity. When you are kind, you act out of love, not fear. You say no with respect. You speak the truth with compassion. And you give without expecting endless returns. That is why kindness is sustainable while niceness is exhausting. And here is something we must accept. Kindness sometimes doesn't look nice. Saying no doesn't look nice. Walking away doesn't look nice. Calling out disrespect doesn't look nice. But all of those things are acts of kindness to yourself, and in the long run, to others too. Because pretending to be fine when you are not is not kindness. It is deception. And allowing people to disrespect you while smiling through it is not kindness. It is self-abandonment. Kindness is not about making everyone happy. It is about staying true to your values. It is about knowing that sometimes love comes with boundaries. Sometimes compassion comes with truth. And sometimes respect comes with distance. It may not please everyone, but it will protect your dignity, and it will nurture the relationships that truly matter. People may forget how nice you were, but they will always remember how your kindness made them feel seen, respected, and loved. So stop chasing the image of being the nice person in every room. Stop apologizing for being real. Let people call you rude. Let them call you stubborn. Let them call you difficult, if that is the price of staying true to yourself. Because in the end, niceness fades, but kindness leaves a legacy. Niceness may win you temporary approval, but kindness builds a life of authenticity, peace, and respect. And that is the kind of life worth living. There is a certain freedom that comes the moment you realize the power of saying no. For most of us, the word no feels heavy, almost like a sin. We are taught to say yes, to agree, to comply, because that is what makes us good. But the truth is, constantly saying yes is what makes us lose ourselves. Every time you say yes to something your heart doesn't want, you are saying no to your own peace. Every time you agree out of fear instead of choice, you are betraying yourself. And there is nothing kind about betraying your own soul. Saying no is not about rejection. It is about authenticity. It is about being honest enough to admit what you can and cannot give. Too often, we exhaust ourselves by carrying burdens that were never ours to begin with, simply because we were too afraid to decline. We think that by saying yes, we are keeping relationships alive, but in reality, we are only creating resentment. The truth is, people may be momentarily disappointed when you say no, but that disappointment is temporary. The self-betrayal of constantly saying yes lasts forever. The beauty of saying no is that it teaches others how to treat you. It reminds them that your time, your energy, and your heart are not infinite. And those who truly care about you will understand. They will respect the courage it takes to say no. But those who only value you when you are useful to them will leave. And as painful as that may feel, it is actually a blessing. Because saying no doesn't push away the right people. It only filters out the wrong ones. Many of us fear that saying no will make us appear selfish. But selfishness is not about protecting your peace. Selfishness is demanding that others sacrifice their happiness for yours. Saying no is an act of self-respect, not selfishness. When you say no to what doesn't serve you, you are saying yes to what truly matters. You are saying yes to your growth, yes to your dreams, yes to your health, and yes to your authenticity. And that yes to yourself is far more powerful than 100 false yeses to others. Think about the times you said yes out of guilt. and then spent days regretting it. Think about the emotional exhaustion of forcing yourself into places you didn't want to be, conversations you didn't want to have, responsibilities you weren't ready for. That is the cost of a yes without sincerity. Now imagine if, in those same moments, you had chosen to say no. Imagine the peace you could have kept, the time you could have saved, the energy you could have protected. That is the gift of no. It preserves what is precious. Saying no is not about closing doors. It is about opening the right ones. It is not about rejecting people. It is about choosing the relationships that are healthy and mutual. It is not about being unkind. It is about being truthful. And the truth is, you cannot give your best to anyone if you are drained from giving too much to everyone. By saying no, you allow yourself to show up with more love, more kindness, and more presence for the people who actually deserve it. So let go of the guilt attached to that little word. Let go of the fear that people will leave when you stop bending for them. Because the ones who leave when you say, no, we're only staying because of your yes, they were never really there for you, only for what you could give them. And losing them is not a loss. It is freedom. When you start embracing the power of no, you reclaim control over your life. You reclaim your time, your choices, and your dignity. You stop living for validation and start living for truth. And that is when you realize that no is not a negative word at all. It is the most beautiful yes you can ever give to yourself. There comes a moment in life when you must stop waiting for the world to validate you and start choosing yourself first. For far too long, many of us live with the belief that our worth depends on how others see us, how much they approve of us, how many people applaud when we speak or smile when we give. But the truth is, no amount of external validation can ever fill the emptiness of abandoning yourself. You can be loved by the whole world and still feel hollow inside if you are constantly betraying your own soul just to be accepted. Choosing yourself first is not arrogance. It is self-preservation. And it is the foundation of every strong, meaningful, and healthy relationship you will ever have. When you begin to prioritize yourself, you start to understand that your happiness is not a reward others can hand to you. It is a responsibility you owe to yourself. Too often, we wait for someone else to tell us we are enough. We wait for someone else to see our worth. We wait for someone else to give us permission to live the life we desire. But why should you wait for a permission slip that only you can write? The moment you stop living for their approval and start living for your truth, you taste a freedom that no applause can ever give. Choosing yourself first means learning to honor your needs without guilt. It means listening to your heart when it says rest, money, when it says walk away, when it says dream bigger. It means no longer silencing your voice for the comfort of others, no longer dimming your light so someone else won't feel insecure. Because every time you shrink yourself for others, you are teaching your soul to live in a cage. And you were not created to live in a cage. You were created to fly. Of course, there will be people who call you selfish when you choose yourself. They will tell you that you have changed, that you are difficult, that you are not as nice as you used to be. But remember this, you are not here to live up to the expectations of everyone else. You are here to live a life of purpose. And sometimes purpose requires you to disappoint people who never truly saw you anyway. If loving yourself makes others uncomfortable, let them be uncomfortable. Their discomfort is not your burden to carry. The beauty of choosing yourself first is that it does not make you less compassionate. It makes your compassion real. When your cup is full, you can pour into others with joy instead of exhaustion. When your soul is respected, you can offer respect without resentment. When you are true to yourself, you can be true in your relationships. By honoring your own worth, you teach others how to honor theirs, and that ripple effect creates stronger, healthier connections than endless sacrifice ever could. Choosing yourself first is also about courage. The courage to walk away from places, people, and situations that no longer serve your growth. It is the courage to say, I deserve better, and to not settle until you find it. It is the courage to dream bigger than the limits others have placed on you. And most importantly, it is the courage to stand alone, if standing alone is what it takes to remain true to yourself. So stop waiting for the world to clap before you feel proud of who you are. Stop waiting for someone to love you before you decide to love yourself. Stop waiting for permission before you choose the life you deserve. Because the moment you choose yourself first, you unlock a strength that no rejection can break, no criticism can weaken, and no failure can diminish. And in that strength, you finally realize you were never meant to be defined by how others see you. You were always meant to shine by how deeply you see yourself.